Hello Eagles Nation, Vincent Foast here, and welcome to a preseason Game 2 Eagles Chat review. We're here at Eagles Chat. We get down right to the news you want to hear on your birds, and there's definitely a lot of news to talk about on yesterday's game. But before we get into it, make sure you like and subscribe to the Eagles Chat YouTube channel, as well as following us on Instagram at Chat Eagles, where you can find daily updates on your birds, and you can also find our Instagram in the description of this Eagles Chat video. But let's get right into this Eagles Chat, and we're first going to start off with the score. The Eagles were able to pull out a 14-13 victory over the New England Patriots to improve their preseason record to 2-0. It was another one of those games where the Eagles won it in the final minutes of the game, where on the New England Patriots' final drive, the New England Patriots fumbled the snap, and the Eagles were able to recover it to put away the game, making it the final of 14-13. But now let's get into the injury update. Now we have two big-time injuries we are monitoring on this week's injury update, and the first one is Mr. Tyler Steen. Now he is said to have an ankle injury. Now he was one of the guys in the running for right guard, but now more and more news has been coming out these past couple of days that it is starting to look like Mekhi Becton has that position all wrapped up. It is not 100% confirmed yet, but it is a lot of news outlets and a lot of facts are starting to point that Mekhi Becton has that area locked up just on his performance, how he's been playing, how he was playing in training camp, and as well just in general with these team practices. And I mean, he's been out playing all of the guys in the running for that position. So again, not 100% confirmed that Mekhi Becton has it, but a lot of signals are pointing towards he is the one that is going to take that position. But the next guy we have on the injury update is Mr. John Ross. Now, he was taken off the field to be evaluated for a concussion yesterday. The only thing was he was confirmed to have a concussion. Now, in my opinion, this hurts a little bit because John Ross was definitely a guy that I saw starting to shine, especially in last week's preseason game. He didn't play that bad, and I definitely think he wouldn't be a bad backup to, for any reason. If one of the starters gets hurt in the regular season, I definitely think John Ross would be a good guy to put in that position. Now, we'll see how he does in concussion protocol as these weeks to come. We'll be continuing to monitor that very, very closely as the rest of the weeks continue on. But in my opinion, this hurts a little bit just because he was definitely starting to develop, and I definitely think they were developing him pretty well in the preseason. So, like I said, we'll continue to keep you guys updated on those situations. But now moving on to a different situation that a lot of people are talking about. It's probably one of the top talking points when you mention Eagles football right now, and that is the quarterback situation between Mr. Kenny Pickett and Mr. Tanner McKee. So right now with this whole situation is, seeing how both of these guys have played and putting them back to back right now, I don't see any reason why Tanner McKee should not be the QB2 right now. Let's compare them. Let's go right ahead. Looking at Kenny Pickett's stats, 11 out of 13 for 67 yards, and Tanner McKee, 15 out of 19 for 140 yards. Now, hey, let's start comparing them right now. Accuracy. What I saw from Kenny Pickett yesterday and what I saw from Tanner McKee yesterday were completely two different things. Now, coming into this season, the Eagles picked up Kenny Pickett, and he was going to be the guy that was expected to be the QB2. Wasn't exactly coming off a great season from the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I think a lot of people were thinking, oh, maybe he just needs a change of the guys at the helm. Maybe he needs a change in the coaching staff and some of the leaders. But seeing Kenny Pickett coming in, and by the way, it didn't just start last week on the first preseason game. Apparently, there's been a lot of news coming out that Kenny Pickett hasn't exactly had a great training camp either. So looking at the training camp and looking at last week's game and this week's game, I'm not seeing any improvement from Kenny Pickett. And especially looking at last week's game, I had to tell myself to step back and look at it for a second. It was his first game of the season in an NFL game day setting. It's always a different mentality in a game day setting. I don't care how much you practice it in training camp or just in practice in general. It's always going to be a different mentality and a different look in an NFL game day setting. So I had to stop myself for a bit and say, oh, maybe it was just butterflies. But after looking at Kenny Pickett, last game and this past game that happened yesterday, I really didn't notice any difference. I didn't notice any improvement. And I noticed the same mistakes over and over from Pickett, from the hesitation in the pocket to the accuracy just not being there at all. And, looking at those two things and then putting them in Tanner McKee's column, I saw the complete opposite. I saw a guy who was getting the ball out of the pocket at a very, very high rate of speed. A guy where when he saw the pocket starting to collapse, he escaped it, rolled out of the pocket in some scenarios, and just in general, the quick thinking factor was a lot better, 1,000 times better with McKee than it was with Pickett. Again, I said this last Eagles chat, and I have to say it again. It seemed like the same exact scenario for Kenny Pickett. He seemed to be a step behind. And again, with that long ball, some of the mistakes, Grant, I have to say, were to some of the receivers as well as the running back. I mean, there was one last night with Gainwell where he stopped for some reason and it kind of threw Pickett off where he overthrew. That I can understand because it's a timing with the wide receiver. There was no reason for him to stop. I understand those type of mistakes happen. But there were also a lot of times where Pickett just flat out missed his receiver, either overthrew him, underthrew him, or, I mean, it's just, the timing is not there, the accuracy is not there, and, I mean, just the quick thinking was not there either as well. He had a lot of times where he had happy feet in the pocket, a lot of hesitation. It just was not smooth. And you really need, especially with the talent on this offense, with the starters, if something happens with Jalen Hurts, you need a guy in there that can keep the rhythm going. And do I see Kenny Pickett being a guy that can keep the rhythm going for this team in case something happens to Jalen Hurts? Not in the slightest. I definitely think Kenny Pickett would be the type of QB to completely destroy any type of rhythm with an offense. And again, I have not seen any improvement. Now, going on more positive terms with Tanner McKee, I definitely have seen improvement. And I think he had a better game than Pickett did last preseason game. But this preseason game, I think McKee had an even better outing. I mean, the quick throws were right on point. He threw a lot of good dots this week with some quick throws right on the money. Some even had some, I guess you could consider them long balls that were on point as well, which hit his receivers right in the hands. The only thing is this week the receivers called it. Fortunately, last week his stats didn't look as good because there were a lot of throws that McKee threw that were just flat out dropped that should have been caught. But this week, I definitely saw that the receivers were reacting to him a lot better. Now, McKee was brought in a little earlier this game than he was last game. He was brought in at the very beginning of the second half. And hey, right now in my mind, there is absolutely no hesitation saying that McKee should be the QB2. I mean, you need a guy. I don't care what you brought Kenny Pickett in. He has showed absolutely no improvement whatsoever. I'm sorry. But McKee, right now, he seems to be a guy that will keep the rhythm going in case of an emergency. The offense responds to him. He's got good quickness, good quick thinking, good smoothness. I mean, what I'm seeing from him, everything that McKee is doing well, Pickett is not doing well. Every time I compare these two right now, McKee is doing everything that Pickett is doing wrong, but McKee is doing it pretty good. I mean, right now I'm getting caught up in words right now just trying to describe it, but it is one of those situations where McKee, everything that Pickett is doing wrong, McKee is doing right. That's probably the best way I could describe it without me just completely tripping over my words or trying to find some way to describe it even better than that. But right now, McKee, in my mind, again, there's no question that he should be the QB2. In my opinion, I think he played better than Mariota did last preseason. And again, he is outperforming the guy that is said to be the QB2 being Kenny Pickett. Tanner McKee is just completely outperforming him. And again, there's absolutely no question that he should be the QB2. I really want to see him start next preseason game if they don't play Jalen Hurts, which most likely is looking like it's not going to happen. It does not look like Jalen Hurts is going to play in the preseason. Who knows, he may. But if he doesn't, I really would like to see how McKee is off the dime. And I mean, I definitely think he's earned everything to really start a game. I mean, he has outplayed Pickett in every area possible in that respect, and I definitely would like to see McKee start next game for the Birds. But now, let's move into the offense. Let's start, besides quarterbacks, let's get into the offense with contributors. And we're first going to start off with a guy who was absolutely all over the place, being Will Shipley. Now, both with rushing and receiving, this guy was completely all over the place. Let's start with his rushing stats. He had 5 attempts for 15 yards, and for his receiving, he had 4 catches for 31 yards. So Shipley right now has been all over the place. He is a guy where when he gets the ball, I like describing it like this, but he is the type of guy to make the opposing team's defense completely shiver in their cleats when they see him coming at them. Just like what I described Britton Covey last week, that's exactly how I'm going to describe Shipley's play yesterday, where he is a guy that can definitely break your ankles and someone who, with the right blocking in front of him, can take that ball a long way. But now, as well, with another contributor who had a pretty good receiving game yesterday, and that is Joseph Nagata with 5 receptions for 88 yards, 17.6 average. So that's a pretty good stat for Nagata as well. Definitely something, or definitely someone who can fill in as well. So this is something very, very good to see. The Eagles receiving core developed. I mean, obviously with guys like A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith up there, the best of the best at the very top, it is definitely very good to develop your core, and I definitely like what I'm seeing from the offense. Even though it wasn't a high-scoring game yesterday, I'm definitely liking how the Eagles are developing their core. And again, hey, these are the guys you may possibly see in an emergency situation. Again, we never like to think of those emergency situations, but it is definitely good to have a good core being developed at a pretty good rate. But now let's move on to the defense. So this is another one of those things where I have to say I could honestly sit here forever and talk about all the guys who contributed on the defense. I mean, a star from last game, Patrick Johnson, as I like to say, who had a pretty good first preseason game. Again, yesterday on the second preseason game, made some pretty good plays as well and stepped up in a lot of good ways. But a guy we really got to talk about, a starter, being Nolan Smith, who performed pretty well yesterday, as was all over the place, was making a lot of good plays, had a sack as well, with Bryce Huff, another starter, who was someone that a lot of people were looking at, especially since he was a big pickup this past offseason. Bryce Huff, again, anytime he had a chance to make a play, he did not disappoint at all. Definitely something good to see from number 0 and the big man Bryce Huff stepping up, or any chance he could make a big play, he definitely stepped up and made that play for the time that he was playing yesterday. I mean, even though it wasn't the full game, they gave him some time at the beginning of the play, and pretty much every time, like I said, he had an opportunity, he made that opportunity count big time. But now, another starter that we're going to mention, and of course right here, Avonte Maddox had an interception yesterday, saving possibly a touchdown. And right there, that was probably a good game-saving play, 100%. Obviously, if New England Patriots would have gotten that touchdown, it probably would have been a different outcome for the Birds, and they most likely would not have a 2-0. It may have been a 1-1 record for the preseason. But a good interception from Avonte Maddox. Hopefully that is the first of many to happen in this 2024 NFL season for the Birds. But that is all I really got to say for this Eagles chat. And right here, here's the next big thing, and this is the final preseason game. It's kind of hard hard to believe already that I'm saying this is the final preseason game for the Birds, but here it is, Saturday, August 24th, Game 3. Can't believe it's already here. That will be at 1 o'clock p.m. at the Link, the one and only preseason game at the Link before the Eagles push off to go to Brazil in Week 1 to play the Green Bay Packers again. I said it in previous Eagles chats back in July that, I mean, the regular season will be here before you know it, and here we are already. Our next game, the final preseason game. Time is absolutely flying, but hey, the big positive thing that comes out of that is Eagles regular season football is just around the corner. But that's all I really got to say for this preseason Game 2 Eagles chat review. And as always, and no one's ever gonna stop me from saying this, go Birds!